Welcome to the Motor for Life radio show. This is Robert Christensen. This week we talk about taking the shopping cart back and the principles and lessons that are built into this fundamental, very simple self-worth elevating exercise. It's a great talk and I hope you enjoy it. So hang on. I'll talk to you at the end. I'm just going to press the record button, which I just did, and I'll just cut in where it makes sense and we can get rolling. But our conversation, I think, today is really important around, taking the shopping cart back. I loved it when you brought it up today, man.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the lessons you taught me a long time ago, and I had the opportunity to pass it on to my kids last night.
Well, tell
So
me about it.
yeah, so we're actually up in Sacramento, and I'm a I'm on a vegan diet, which is great, great for my health, but it requires some specialty shopping, so we end up
Mm.
in supermarkets often. But I'm with my kids last night, and we go through the supermarket. We do what we need to do. It's late. We're tired. And of course, they just want to leave as quickly as possible. And so I really sat them down and taught them the lesson of putting the shopping cart back where it's supposed to go. And I tied it into the lesson that way you do one thing is the way that you do everything.
And what was the lesson actually that you were trying to communicate to your kids?
Yeah, it's that you do something to completion, and you do it well all the time.
But why is taking the shopping cart back completion?
Right. It's giving back to humanity. It's completion because this is going to go deep. We're just talking about a shopping cart here, but but this is the purpose.
Yeah, wait a second, Devin. Wait. You went from an annoyance of me having to roll the cart back 20 feet to
Yeah.
a worldview. You went from 10
Yeah.
feet to 10,000 feet in a nanosecond here. So let you know, some days I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I was in Costco yesterday and I have to say, man, for those who have not been to a Costco, I know they're going global, but to say the least, people returning shopping carts at Costco is not the norm most days. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And those are those extra large shopping carts.
Right. They take up a parking stall.
That's right.
Right? And, actually, let me back that up. I'm going to say, I notice carts sitting out. I don't necessarily notice a whole bunch of people taking it back, but that's my very, very narrow, limited view, though. So I almost sit in judgment some days of that.
Yeah.
And so, what was the lesson you're trying to really get to a 10-year-old, and I think you got an 8 or a 6-year-old, and then you have a newborn, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you
And
trying to communicate there?
yeah, I'm trying to communicate that they do everything to completion, do it well, put good energy back into the world, because if you leave your card out, here's how I look at it, then you're not contributing to the organization and wellness of society. People, it could hit a car. This particular instance, they were putting them back just in this alleyway that was kind of blocking
Mm,
people from walking through. So, and mind you, there was a bunch of carts that were not out, and so they wanted to just follow the norm.
mm.
And I had them take it over and put it all the way back. And so the lesson is that for me, it's completion and doing it well, and giving back to society all at the same time.
That's really interesting, Devin, because I take a completely different lesson.
What's your
I yeah, and I love yours. It's huge and something I'm taking in. My reasoning for taking the cart back is that I think it's adjacent to yours. I don't want to say that it's the same, but it's a different context for me, as I believe there is a respect for somebody else by doing that.
Mhm.
That I am not. It's a degree of selfishness, actually. I think it's a selfless act to take it back because you are um, returning something to a designated spot where somebody else has got a job to pick them up from that spot and bring them back in. But moreover, when somebody else drives into the parking lot, there is fewer things to get in the way. They are able to park more easily. And like you said, the potential of it hitting another car anonymously, right?
Mhm.
Which I have been on the receiving end of that, where there's only one spot left, right, in the parking lot. You do a quick right or left turn into that spot, only to be surprised by a cart sitting
Okay.
right there that someone left, and it pisses me off. Okay, so let's just be more. I want to be practical about it. I'm pissed that somebody left that there. And so there's a bit of ego wrapped in mine from time to time. I have to be truly transparent that I don't want to be that guy that left that cart so somebody else could get pissed. Because, there's a part of it that's what comes around, go around. There's karma, right? So if I leave carts hanging out, I'm going to be running into carts that have been left hang out. And so there's a bit of selfishness in that for me, I think, to be just transparent as heck.
Yeah.
I don't know if I rise to the level that you're communicating to your kids. I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. It might be because my kids are grown and I'm not thinking like that right now. I'm thinking more of the impact I'm making to people next to me. Um, but that's kind of where I'm coming from at it. I say, how can I just create a better local community by doing something that's small and meaningful?
That's great. Yeah. Well, and that whole the one way you do well, let me say it again. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Well, why don't you unpack that one?
Yeah,
Because
well,
it
yeah.
took me a while to understand what you were talking about when you say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it did for me too. And that's really the lesson behind the shopping cart for my kids, and um meaning that, if you like, it ties into the karma, that you said.
Hmm.
And if you do something, you do it halfway to completion, or you're reckless about it, or let's go a little bit deeper. You miss an appointment,
Right.
you're late to work. I really feel that has compound interest, and
Mm,
meaning that that's going to come out in your life in different ways. If you miss an appointment or miss an opportunity, then that can have a deep impact that could take a while to recover. On the flip side, if you show up to the appointment, do it well, carry a high context, and give back to humanity, all at the same time in everything that you do, then the compound interest goes the other way, where your life is full, and you obtain more things, your relationships are stronger. I could just go on and on, and that's just barely unpacking it, but that's that's my cliff notes.
yeah. Well, that's the whole purpose of this podcast is to
Yeah,
unpack, right?
right.
So for us to take these guiding principles that you and I practice in our life that we've been doing for years and share them with with the community and the world so that they can have some of these timeless, practical steps to elevating self worth that are meaningful in their life day to day. What can you actually do that's meaningful? What could you do that you could say, okay, this is the one thing I'm going to show up for, and I'm going to do 100% every single time, no matter what, right? And so that if you show up for that one thing 100% as a discipline, as a commitment to doing that one thing. And so I remember this being that one commitment that I made initially early on. So it's got to be over 30 years ago when I first heard it. I was at a retreat, and this man who I don't even remember his name, he's been long passed. He says, "Take the shopping cart back." He was so specific about it. He was damn near yelling, right? He says, you have to have some commitment in your life. You need to be committed to something. Commit to taking the shopping cart back. And I looked at him and I just stared at him and I go, this guy has lost it, right? What does taking the shopping cart back have to do with anything in life? Anything. They've got people that they hire whose job it is to go out there and scan the parking lot for people's carts to bring them back in. Why should I be doing anything other than that? And I thought about that. I really, really thought about that. That if what if I committed to that one thing, just that extra little commitment to making my community and the people who go to my local store just a little bit better. And I think that's what you're saying right there. How do I commit to humanity? But I'm going to pull it back into like my local store and the
Right.
two or 300 people that may go to that store, or whatever the number is. Right. And I thought to myself, all right, I'll do that. I'll commit to it. And boy, man, when you make a commitment like that and you don't take the cart back, I've literally not take the cart back, said, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Stopped while I was in the car, while I was backing out, put the car back into the store and going, I committed to it, man. What am I going to do? Right. If I don't commit to this and follow through with it, what kind of other commitments am I going to let go later? And that's what I think you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's that compound interest. If it's okay here, then it's okay here, and then it's okay over here, and it just
Right. It
it
becomes
starts.
okay to, show up late to appointments and then just apologize, like we said in our last podcast,
Sure.
that
Yeah,
sorry is just a wet band-aid, right?
that's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
so where else would this, if you had to start cutting a corner on this one, Devin, let's just play it out, right? Where is it going to show up in your life? And make it personal, man. Where's it going to show up?
Well, for me, it's more of it's a personality thing.
Mm,
This is tied into who I am. Let's call it a term, if you will.
hmm.
And another great example of the shopping market or the supermarket is when if I get something and I decide I don't want it, um, I take it back to where it goes as well too, instead of just leaving it there, on the whatever aisle. For
Oh,
the
you mean like in the actually when you're shopping, like if you pick
Yeah,
up a loaf of bread, you realize that's not what you wanted,
that's right.
then
Yeah,
you take it all the way back to where it belongs.
and I have somebody in my life that really bothers them that I do
Well,
that.
it bothers
They
me
just
too, man. I'll be drawing along the car. Well, you got somebody, 2 people in your life. I'm one of them.
so,
Oh god. All right,
yeah,
so now you
so,
know, man. So
yeah.
what is that? What is that gets you to take that loaf of bread back to the place where you got it?
Yeah, I think it's just empathy
Mm,
and feeling like it's the right thing to do. That I don't and take it to the community level. I don't want to see the store cluttered. I don't like shopping for bread and come across some granola bars right there. So it's thinking about other people. But but you had asked the question about how this shows up in my life, and
mhm,
I've seen it show up, I guess just through practice because I have cut corners before, or I've, you know, you know, like you find the $5 on the ground and
mhm.
in the store, and instead of giving it to the store saying, "Hey, maybe somebody lost this," will you see if they come back to pick it up? Putting it in your pocket and saying it's your lucky day. So, you know,
Wait a second here. Hang on. Okay, you just wandered off the range, okay? So, why wouldn't you keep it and say it's your lucky day?
well, I think that somebody might return and say, "Hey, I lost my $5." And
That's a whole nother level of commitment to here. Okay,
yeah,
so how did you go from taking the shopping cart back to not to giving back $5 you find on the ground?
I think it's just the right thing to do. I
Mm,
have these gut checks, and and I believe in my life when they became more important is when I had kids, and being an example to them. And so, everything that I do, now I get the opportunity to teach them lessons, but just purely in the way that we act and behave, or I act and behave around my children. I think it really turned a corner for me. And so they're little baby things, but they show up, and I'll have to admit, when I start cutting corners, or we use the example of being late, for something, not even saying sorry, just being late, it carries with me, and for that time being, I'll feel upset at myself. I'll feel like, gosh, I should have done this better. whatnot, and so I've got to clear that out, and if I don't show up late, then I'm okay, but if I do it and I do it again and I do it again, I kind of fall into this depression, if you will, or I don't know if it's depression, but it's a lack of self-worth is what
There
it
we
is.
go. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was thinking.
right, right. So, and that shows up, big time in my life.
Oh, it does, doesn't it, man? Once that corrosive thread of low self-worth gets woven into some of the fabric of your life, boy, man, you feel it, especially if you've had some degree of higher self-worth, if you like you can have visibility. So one of the great things about the practice that we do is that once you get a little distance between where you were and where you are, and that you start looking in the rearview mirror about what you used to think about yourself and how you're thinking now. Oh, it's dramatic. I mean, when you have this aha moment going, "Oh my god, that's how I used to think."
Right,
I
right.
used to think that I was demanding of my right to leave a shopping cart where it is, that I demanded that anything I found was mine, right? That there was a high degree of selfishness that just wove through all this lower self-worth. It was almost like like handcuffs,
Hmm.
right? And as soon as you get the keys to release the handcuffs and you start walking free for a while, and then you look back on your belief system, you start asking yourself, why would I cut corners? But there it is, right, Devin? I
Yeah,
mean, you have to have the principles. I think you call them terms. I look at them as like principles. What are the principles of my life? The principles are get down to I take the shopping cart back. If I find money, it's not mine. It's just not mine. And what's the next right thing to do is give that money to whomever we think it might be. And if there's no one around to give it to, hell, I'm going to give it to a homeless person,
there you go.
right? That's my principle, by the way.
Sure.
If I found it inside Costco, I probably ask around people around me to see if it was theirs. Hey, hey, is this your $5 bill with Lincoln on it? Right? Yeah, I had a $5 bill with Lincoln on it. Okay, here you go. You know, if you could name the president that's on this $5 bill, I think it's yours, right?
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. So here's the challenge. This is I got. Let's tie it back to the red zone.
Mm,
I think that an easy red zone self sabotage behavior is to compromise my principle.
that's right. That's exactly what it is.
You know, and so when I compromise a principle is when I am self sabotaging my self worth.
That's right. Yeah, and when you compromise a principles run deep, and
Hmm.
those are things that, I mean, it's not just a little hit to your self-worth, or me, I'll make it personal. It's a big hit to my self-worth.
It's a landmine,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Because what you've done is you've buried in the dirt a landmine that you will run over in the near future. I'm serious, man. I have watched this over and over and over again. How people will justify a behavior on selfish wants, which is fundamentally a low self. It's a self sabotage behavior, procrastination, whatever you want to do, right?
Right.
Only to run over that landmine the next day or the week later, whenever it happens, and then claim to be a victim,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
right? And boy, that truth is not. I've just found. I mean that truism is rarely addressed. That the road that I'm traveling on now was built yesterday.
yeah, and
Okay,
and that this is my fault.
this is my fault. I'm the one who did this, and it's a spiritual axiom. And karma is not an accident. This isn't something that just was discovered yesterday, and Robert and Devon decided to go talk about it.
Right.
The concept of karma is millennia old, way before Jesus Christ, right? They knew that the seeds that you were planting today are going to be the harvest that you have tomorrow. This is old, old knowledge. And if you believe that this is not applicable to you, continue to live your life. No, no one's twisting anybody's arm here, right?
No.
I think you and I really enjoy doing this just because we volunteer for it.
Well, that, yeah, and we pay so much attention to it because we live it every day. But you're right. There's people I think that just are clueless, and until the we've talked about this before, until the pain gets tough enough,
Yeah.
they're willing to address it.
Well, a side note, I spent a lot this past week thinking about um, upper and lower self worth limits as they relate to self sabotage and changing your life. So taking the cart back is a upper limit breaker, right? You build higher self worth by taking the shopping cart back. It may not seem like it, but there's a figure of your self-worth. Think of it like a ball of clay, like a big piece of clay that sits inside you. And it doesn't have any shape just yet, but every little piece of clay you add to it gives it shape. And taking the shopping cart back is like one little piece of clay that gets added to the figure and that image of who you think you are. But the lower self-worth, what I call the lower self-worth limit, that lower limit, is just as powerful. And change does not occur, Devin, in my life until I drop below that lower self limit, when things become unacceptable to me,
Mm,
that I do not like the way things are because I am not satisfied with my life at the current moment because it's changed. My upper limit has shifted. What was okay yesterday is not okay now. And that shift has to occur before you and I and anybody else decides to put in place these difficult practices that we're talking about so they can achieve what they want to achieve. And so I've been over and over and over in myself. I kept on looking back in my life and I asked myself, did I actually change because I have a higher virtue? Because it's the right thing to do to take the shopping cart back? Or did I actually change because I was not satisfied with the way my life was going, and the manifestation of that life was evident in me leaving shopping carts all over the place?
mm.
I don't know. I have to go with what we've been practicing for the last 30 years, right? How about you? What's where does change happen for you?
I never thought about that lower limit deal. Well, let me take it back. I have, but the way that you said it made a lot of sense, Robert, and I think it's very applicable to what we're talking about. That and so that's it. Where the goal is that that self worth limit continues to rise. Throughout my life,
Hmm.
and so that means that my lower limits are going to continue to rise as well too. And so as our self-worth gets higher, then we're not acceptable. We don't accept those instances that create lower self-worth in our life. And that makes a
That's
lot of
really
sense to
interesting.
me.
Yeah, I like how you articulated that. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with what are called frequency bands. Frequency bands are, with the radio, as you turn your knob, the AM radio goes from like I think 530 to some higher number. I forgot what it was. I don't listen to AM anymore. And then the frequency bands for FM radio are different. But there's, the frequencies of our self-worth has a band. There's an upper and lower limit, right? There's a lower limit of frequency, which is a basically an energy level. You just said it. There's an energy level that I have that is not acceptable, right? You just don't. I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. So anything off my frequency is considered either unacceptable or highly desirable. So the higher I go in my frequency band, or excuse me, the more I push my frequency band up, the upper and lower limit. So think of it like a viewing window that you have that you can look through, and everything I see through that viewing window is what I find acceptable in my life. But what I want to do is push that window higher and higher in frequency, and what I used to see as the lower part is no longer in my life, or I don't want to see anymore, and I now see a whole new set of stuff. And so that frequency band goes up and down. And as a scientific person, that's how I look at it. And what I know is this, what through experience, what you and I know, and all the people we work with and we teach this stuff too, is that if you continue to move your self worth band, the upper and lower limits up, you will change your life in a positive direction. And what was acceptable yesterday now has become unacceptable today.
Yeah.
That part can be hazardous for people. They go, what, wait. You're asking me to give up what I got today for something better tomorrow, but I find what I have today very comfortable.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it is. It is uncomfortable, um, especially when you decide to make a change. Or
Hmm.
well, or when I decide to make a change, it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable, and those are those character developing moments where
Yeah.
where
Well,
we get.
when did you commit to forever taking the cart back?
Well, let me see. That's a great question. It was a long time ago um,
Hmm.
that I committed to doing that. I would say about 18 years ago.
Mm.
Um, decided to live my life in a positive way, and that took baby steps.
Well, that's like the
It-
very first baby step,
yeah,
self-worth baby step thing, right?
it's a great
It
example.
it really is. It's almost like the first thing I can do is to make that commitment. Is that forever I will always take the cart back, no matter what, no matter rain or sleet, snow, whatever. And here's the domino effect that happens with this, by the way, is that once you start getting in the habit of taking the cart back, I would be walking through the parking lot and I see someone start to leave their cart and I'll go, "Hey, I'll take that back for you." And they light up.
Oh,
And now I'm
that's great.
carrying 2 carts, right? Right?
Right.
And now I'm pushing 3. And if I see some more carts in the parking lot that I can, get that are meaningful or tidy up the place where all the carts are, I push them in place. And so there's a compounding in that as well that keeps going. And I'll go one step further. This has been on and off, but I would stand at the place where all the shopping carts are at the Costco and hand out the carts.
Oh, nice. Wow, okay. That's a
So
that's
my
a
yeah. So everybody thinks you work there then. Okay.
yeah.
Can you tell me where I can get the meat over there? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's over here. It's over there.
The rotisserie chicken's all the way in the back.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know, man. I just and so I did that from time to time when I need a boost. When I'm not feeling that personally satisfied or there's something wrong, I'll do something anonymous like that as best I can, you know, and just try to be a better man in this society today. Just contribute somewhere where you can. And the shopping cart is such a metaphor, man. It is
Yeah.
such a metaphor for life.
It's a great one. I've really held on to it. You were
Hmm.
obviously somebody talked to you about it, and then I remember you talking to me about it, and it's something easy to remember, that has deep impact and crosses many lines. you
Well,
know,
Devin, it's been great. I'm so glad that you and your family are having fun in Sacramento. That you were able to carve time out in your mobile studio, called AKA the car,
the car
right? At the car. Right? Thank you
with
so much for joining us, man.
trains in the background.
Yeah. I know it sounded good, man. The sounds quality is outstanding. So hey, go off and enjoy your day with your family, man, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you. You too, Robert.
Okay, bye bye. This has been a Motive for Life Productions, all rights reserved.